297. That's how many times I've been rejected from a summer internship this year. So I thought to myself, man, what do these recruiters even want? So that's exactly what I did. In this video, you're gonna hear from 3 different recruiters about their experiences, but also what's keeping you from getting that final offer.
Jeff Boss. So I'm a technical recruiter for Valorant. I mostly support engineering and QA.
Students are reaching out to recruiters like yourself. What is the biggest mistake you see with students when they make that first communication?
So I get students reaching out all the time. They talk about, hey, do you have a job for me? And then they send me their LinkedIn. This is really tough because at any given company, a recruiter only handles a small portion of the roles that are open. So for instance, Riot has about 25 recruiters and we have 250 roles posted right now. So that means we all roughly have about 10 roles. So you want to look at the recruiter's LinkedIn. You want to understand, okay, what is this person hiring for? They probably posted some of the roles that they've hired for before, or you can read their background and be like, oh, hey, this person's an art recruiter. And if you're a character artist or like a 3D artist, that would be the right person to reach out to. If they're like, hey, I recruit for hardware engineers and I'm building the Valve Steam Deck, probably don't reach out to them for art because they won't have any insight into art because they're going to be really focused on hiring hardware-focused engineers.
Yeah.
The second thing is if you do message somebody on LinkedIn and you do have, I would come with a specific question. It's really hard to respond to people who are like, hey, can you look at my resume? Yes, I can look at your resume, but what do you like? Where are you trying to get to? What do you want to do? Like, what questions can I answer for you? Like, come with a very specific question. Be like, hey, I am trying to improve my ability to break into XYZ field, right? That could be like, hey, I want to break into software engineering within the graphics space, working on rasterization. Okay, you want to know how your resume stacks up against that? That I can help with.
What's the worst piece of career advice that you've ever been given?
I hear a lot of bad career advice just in general. I think most of it is around the ATS, which is the applicant tracking system. And the ATS is not your enemy. What an ATS is at the end of the day is it's just a data collection tool. It helps us manage candidates, make sure you guys are moving through the process in a correct and good time frame. And that's it. Most recruiters are still going through all their resumes by hand. Every resume at Riot is hand reviewed. There is no AI tools. AI is not rejecting people, at least not right now, 2024. But it is really hard. And I have seen a lot of terrible AI attempts at this where people are like, oh yeah, hey, we'll rank it on AI. And no, it does a terrible job. I've seen like 3 different iterations. It's never good. I still have to hand review everything in those cases every time anyways, because it was off the mark by like a lot. So hand review is still hands down the way that it's being done at like 90% of places.
If somebody wants to work at Riot Games, what is something they need to stop doing?
They should stop working on like 20 to 30 different projects and really focus in on like 2 to 3 particular projects that they can talk about the journey that they've been on for this, and then go on to use that in their interviews to talk about like, hey, I made some trade-offs here and there. I made this decision because it had this long-term or short-term effect. And you're able to talk about, hey, I've worked on a product for X amount of time doing X things. And this is how this is relevant to the work that you're doing because I will be there for a long period of time.
What is the one skill that you see with a lot of students coming into the world of tech?
Honestly, it really depends on where you're coming from, but I would say you want to have technical depth in one particular language and then have surface level in a few others. Now, this doesn't mean that if you went all out and you're like, hey, I've got just a total mix of languages, that's bad, but having a deep showcase of Java or C++ or C#, this is going to help you when you're talking about, hey, this is the journey that I've been on with that language. And you're able to talk about, hey, like this is my familiarity with Java. Here's some of the cool things that I've done with it. Here's what I can provide to your organization. And here's all the things that, someone who hasn't spent as much time in this would be able to do because I've spent X amount of time doing this and are familiar with it and know all the weird quirks and things that you need to be able to do to work in that space.
What would you say is one skill that every student should start working on?
I think good understanding of the craft area that you're a part of is super important. That's pretty obvious. I think the less obvious one is having really good communication skills. Every role that you come into going to need good comm skills. It's going to be an important part of your work for the rest of your life, and everybody's going to ask for it in one way or another. Some interviews will explicitly call out, hey, we're going to talk about your communication skills. Other ones will just do it as you go through the rest of your craft interviews. But you got to work with people all the time. You got to get them to buy into your ideas. Sometimes you're going to be managing people, and they're going to have to understand where you're coming from. You're going to have a lot of people who have different backgrounds and don't understand things the same way that you do. And you need to be able to think about how you talk about that, how you communicate that, how you include other people's ideas, and make sure that you have a holistic sense of things that you're able to communicate well.
What's going on, guys? I'm with
Gana, Roger Sagrin. Currently work for Atlassian as a senior technical recruiter.
So if students want to break into a firm like Atlassian, what is something they need to stop doing?
It's a great question. I'm going to flip that and do, these are things you should be doing or start doing. So I'd say if you're looking for a technical role, whether it's product work focus or whether it's software focus, definitely build your GitHub repo. So create a GitHub early on, be active on LinkedIn, pick up any personal or volunteer opportunities, whether it's projects on your free time, work on programming on the side. Just kind of build those skills, take courses on LinkedIn, do things through Udemy.
What are some of the biggest mistakes you see with students trying to break into tech?
Great question. I think siloing themselves, right? So being a little too specialized early on, right? I think when you're early in your career, it's better to keep it broad. So if you're going for a SWE role, don't just silo yourself into front end, back end, or full stack. Get experience across the stack. Maybe pick up an internship that's full stack facing, pick up one that's front end facing, and go from there around how you shape your career moving forward. Early on in your career, don't be very specialized, be more of a generalist. Later on in your career, once you've been able to experience different verticals and different domains, that's when you start specializing.
What is one skill that students can spend 15 minutes a day developing that will set them apart from 90% of students?
I'm a big proponent on networking. So building those relationships, not being afraid to step out of your comfort zone, whether that means talking to individuals, whether that means picking up a project, whether that means, so just taking those risks early on.
What is something that students are just not doing enough of?
I think continuing to build skills, meaning as in whether you're in school, whether you're waiting for an internship, whether you're looking for a job, keep picking up those courses, whether it's free through LinkedIn, whether it's free through things like Udemy, etc.
What are the most common mistakes you see students make when reaching out to recruiters like yourself, and why?
Not doing their research. So sometimes I have folks reach out to me and I'm like, dude, take the 5 minutes to just go click on the Atlassian website, learn about what we do, what our products are, what space we operate in. I'd say that's the number one. That's messages I won't even look at if you can't. Bottom line is do a bit of research before you approach us and ask questions or even give us a resume. I'd also say don't just go straight in and share your resume. Maybe try to build that relationship with that individual, whether it's a recruiter or not. Open up with asking them about how their day is or what they like about the company or what they like about their role versus then coming in. I think a lot of folks will come in and be like, I have 3 years of experience doing this. I've worked with this technologies and I like that and it's specific and it's relevant. But I'd say take the time to build a relationship, get to know what this individual does, and then maybe sell to that facts or sell to those things you picked up on, right? So
What's going on, you guys? I'm with
Victor, and I've actually been working for the last 11 years over at Costco.
Actually, what is the biggest mistake you see with students when trying to connect with a recruiter?
I would say jumping straight into asking them, here's my resume, find me a job. Yes, we want to help people get jobs, but from random people like just throwing a resume at me, and I would say making a connection with the recruiter in person actually goes a lot longer of a way, because I imagine I'm not alone with how many people are reaching out. But if I meet somebody face to face, I get to know them, I know what they're looking for, I've made a personal connection. I, as a recruiter, to be honest, I'm more invested in trying to help that person than, as much as I want to help everybody, I'm getting hundreds a day of just, here's my resume, find me a job. And that's all it's out.
So what is the most effective way to communicate with a recruiter in your opinion?
I would say meeting them at events like this, taking the time to meet in person, dress up, look nice, present yourself well, and going in, meeting them. I've heard many stories of people being able to make connections because they went into a business, which I know is very old school in this day and age. Everything's digital, but face-to-face connection goes a long way still.
So if you want to be a recruiter, what is something you should start doing right now?
I would say networking, getting used to talking to people, being comfortable around people. I would say building a knowledge base in whatever area of recruiting you want to be in. So whether that's IT or you have merchandising, recruiting, whatever the field is, kind of getting familiar with that so you can feel comfortable speaking to people, but just talking to people in general and having conversations, I think is big.
Victor, my last question to you is, what is the hardest part about being a recruiter?
The hardest part is just not being able to help everybody that you want to. Honestly, I mean, like I said, I get 100 emails a day almost on LinkedIn. I would love to help everybody. I would love to help everybody at this event. I only have so many spots and I only have certain parameters I have to work with for my job.